My family lives on the Leech Lake Indian Reservation. And I want to share with you.
On this edition of Democratic Visions, we're bridging into 2024 with some marvelous storytellers we met back in 2018. And a visit this December to Gingerbread Wonderland at Norway House. It's got charming gingerbread villages and snowy landscapes. We are rich with traditions in the Twin Cities. Here's producer Jeff Strait.
Welcome and season's greetings. Before moving to Mexico a few years back, storyteller coach Maren Hinderly produced and directed a live show at the Hennepin History Museum in Minneapolis.
Keys to homes in our hearts. You know, one story leads to another, and that's what I think. I think once neighborhoods start to hear stories from other neighbors, they're going to go, oh, that reminds me of a time when I...
Keys to Homes in Our Hearts featured 11 storytellers. With the help of Maren and the BCAT Access Studio, they became a three-part Democratic Visions series. For this encore, we only have time to feature 4 stories. Each one is inspired by a seemingly unimportant thing or object that nonetheless had symbolic resonance for each of the storytellers. Tababar Khan, a Pakistani American, Mark O. Lynch, an Irish American, Felicia Boone, an African American, and Connie Edberg, a Native American.
This chicken mold, there's a bottom to it. I left it on the window. It's sitting there waiting for me. This is a chicken mold, and this continues to remind me of my inner child. I'll put it right here. I am Ojibwe. I am Anishinaabe. I am Native American. My name is Connie Goggle-Eye Edberg. Goggle-Eye is an Indian name, which means that I'm part of the Fish Clan. My family, big family, my family lives on the Leech Lake Indian Reservation. And I want to share with you that there were 2 eras. There was the boarding school era, and there was the foster care era. In the boarding school era, Native children were taken out of their homes and placed in boarding schools. In the foster care era, which was the 20th century, children were taken from their homes and placed in white foster homes. I was one of those children. I was a foster care child. It was 1952. I was 6 years old. I went to live on a farm in northern Minnesota. I say rural, but it was a small town. It was just outside of a small town, and I always say small town USA. So the farm, I'll lay it out for you. I would imagine the barn was that direction, big red barn that direction on the left-hand side. The farmhouse was in the middle, big farmhouse. The garden was over to the right. And on the right side, the north side of the garden was a row of hollyhocks. They were tall. Remember now, I'm 6 years old, so I was like, well, who's 6 here? Is there anybody that's 6 here? Those hollyhocks were tall, and there was a row of them, and they were all in beautiful colors. And then along the fence, next to the road, there were sort of a scattering of hollyhocks. And the pathway that led out to a field was where I wanted to see what it was all about. So I was there probably maybe about a week. I decided I was going to go out to that field. As I walked along, I saw a sandbox. So remember, I'm 6 years old. Big sandbox. On the corner was a seat, and on this corner was a seat. And so, being 6 years old, I went and sat down on the sidewalk, sandbox, sat down, looked around. I let the sand sift through my fingers. Nice sand. One sifted this way, that way, just let it fall through my hands. There's something sort of mesmerizing about having sand sift through your hands. And as I sat there and let the sand sift through my hands, I looked around and I saw cups, I saw tin cans, and I saw spoons. You know what the spoons were used for? What do you think the spoons were used for? Got an idea?
Pick up sand?
To pick up sand. They were the shovels. They were the shovels. They didn't have, like sand pail and sand shovels. They were the shovels. So I looked at them and I thought, well, I can use those. I'll use that pail. And then I looked over here and there was a chicken mold. So I picked it up and I decided I needed to do something with that. What am I going to do with it? I decided that I would get some water in one of the pails, got the water, put the sand in, mixed it up with my shovel spoon, mixed it up, and I found a board. It was probably like this. Maybe it was about, like this. Took the board, set it down, picked up my chicken, took some sand out of this pail, this wet sand that I put in there, put one handful in, packed it down, took another handful, packed it down, smoothed it out, set it on the board, lifted it up. Yeah, looks good. Decided I could make another one. Took the sand, put it in there, the wet sand. Took another handful, smoothed it out, put it down, looked at it. I think I'll make one more. So I took sand from the pail, or the can, took the sand, put it in there, one handful, took another handful, and maybe I took another handful of wet sand, smoothed it out so that it was flat on the chicken mold, and I set it down. I looked at it. As I sat there, I looked, and here I'd made 3 chickens. And that, it was my masterpiece. I was 6 years old, and I said, aha, my masterpiece. And you know what? This chicken mold continues to remind me of my inner child.
Good afternoon. My name is Felicia, and I was born and raised in South Minneapolis, but spent my summers in the South with my grandparents. I am a child that likes to dress up. I remember being 6 or 7 and going into my parents' bedroom into the closet, and that closet was filled with shoes. My mom's shoes, not my dad's shoes. My mom's shoes, and I remember sitting on the floor and looking at all the shoes, and there was one pair that always caught my eye. It's a pair of high-heeled yellow candies. I'm dating myself. I would put those shoes on and I would clomp around the house on our wooden floors. Anybody else ever do that? Yeah. And my mom was okay with that. I'm sure it drove her nuts, right, hearing that noise. I would do the same thing at my grandparents' house. But my grandma had a closet that was filled with my mom's old party dresses when she was in high school. And when she introduced me to that closet, every summer when I would go stay with them, that's right where I would head. I would head into that closet, take out all the dresses, go lay them in the bed, and then just figure out which one I was going to try on. I was always drawn to the light blue tulle dress with the ribbon around the waist. And I was little, I was probably 10. So I'd put it on and I'd have to hold it, the tulle scratching under my arms, and I would twirl around in it like that, right? And then I'd go to her closet and get her shoes and put on those heels and wait for the day that I could actually wear all this stuff and it would fit properly. Unfortunately, that day never came. I just imagined myself wearing the dress and the shoes. Oh, and the jewelry. I forgot the jewelry. Grandma had a dresser in her bedroom with lots of drawers. It had a glass top, and underneath it had the 4-leaf clovers that she could always find in the yard that I never could, that she would press under there. But she'd let me play in her jewelry. Oh, there was also lots of perfume bottles on that glass top. So I'd open the drawers, and I'd touch the pearls and the chains, put on the earrings and the bracelets. As every Southern woman knows, more is better, right? And I would put all that on, and again, dream for the day that I could wear all of those things. Unfortunately, I'm bigger than my mother, and I never got the chance to actually wear that dress to a party. When I was probably about 15, I remember spending that summer at my grandparents' again, and my grandmother let me go back into her bedroom again and go through all of the drawers and the boxes. And as a child of the 80s, some of you will know what I'm talking about, everything was big, right? Big hair, big shirts over leggings, stirrup pants. Anybody remember those? Yes. Any girl worth her salt in 1985 had a brooch that she wore right here closing her collar, right? So anybody remember Claire's or the icing, right? A lot of blingy things in there, but this was the best. My grandma said I could pick any brooch that I wanted to bring home that summer. And I took my time. And this one caught my eye. And when I got back that fall and put on that white button down over black leggings, this is the brooch that I used to close my blouse. And I have to say, knowing that this came from her was better than anything I could have ever gotten at Claire's or the icing. And this reminds me of my grandmother's love when I wear it now. And yeah, I have to say, gives me a little bit more swagger when I wear it. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Mark O. Lynch, and today I'd like to speak about me Irish grandma. Grandma loved Ireland. She often referred to it as the Emerald Isle. She'd often invite me over to supper. Now, Grandma could be a most ornery sort, but she was also a delight. Lots of fun, always a hoot. Sometimes after supper, she would invite me in to sit with her. Now, she always said there are only two kinds of people in the world. She taught me this when I was a wee boy. The Irish and those that wish they were. Now, as a wee boy, I was proud, beaming. My chest expanded. However, as I got older, I began to wonder, don't other people like themselves? But I didn't dare ask Grandma. She'd take a swing at me. I recall one time she took a swipe. As I backed up, she almost hit herself in her own nose. It was 1960. The time of the Troubles in Ireland between the English and the Irish. much death and sorrow. But I didn't let it bother me. Now, Grandma always dressed up for supper. She loved her jewelry, gobs of it. She had beads around her neck, green and white. She called her Irish rosary. She always wore rings on all her fingers, gold bracelets on both wrists, and long hanging earrings, often made to look like shamrocks. I was always amazed how she could move around so quickly with all the extra weight. She also had silver dollar dollops on each cheek. She painted her lips bright red above and below the lip line, and she had deep creases in her cheeks that filled up. As that wee boy, I wondered if she'd once been a circus clown. But I didn't dare ask Grandma. Indeed, it was kind of scary. A bit ago, I asked her about the upcoming presidential election. It was 1960. We would have a new president of the United States, either John Fitzgerald Kennedy, a Catholic and a Democrat, or Richard Milhouse Nixon, a scary Protestant and a Republican. Teasing Grandma, I inquired, who are we going to vote for? And I jumped back. I knew the swing was coming. When you would be invited into Grandma's house, it truly was like stepping back across the Atlantic Ocean into Ireland. Her room, her apartment, was filled with Irish jumble. Of particular pride she took in one picture that hung on the wall of Farney Castle. Farney Castle had been owned by her great-great-grandparents back in the 1850s. Now, after I asked Grandma who she was going to vote for, I said, teasing her, no, Grandma, I'm serious. Who are we going to vote for? She says, you can't vote. You're only 15, boyo. I know, Grandma, but you can. I want to learn. She said, well, she got serious now, no more kidding. He's Irish. He's Catholic. And then she got up on her tiny toes and said, and he's good looking. After our Irish supper of corned beef and cabbage with potatoes, of course, we were off to St. Paul in the IRA, Irish Republican Army meeting. The British may have messed with Ireland for some 400 years, but now they would have to deal with me Irish Grandma. Join me if you wish or will in wishing Grandma Erin go bra. Erin go bra. Ireland forever. Ireland forever. Thank you.
My name is Babar Khan, and I moved to United States from Pakistan. Sometimes I have to say, there was a time I used to say Pakistan, which is next to India. Now I have to say Pakistan, which is next to Afghanistan, because people understand in different ways. So anyways, So I came here, and it's been a while. Like the first time I came here to do my master's, and then went back to Pakistan, came back, and started living here in Minnesota 2006 onwards. And this keepsake has a bit value for me. What you see here is a vendor, roadside vendor, selling fruits. He is a poor vendor in the sense that this is his total asset. Every day he gets that many boxes, sell it, save a little bit for his children and home, get new boxes, sell it. If one day there is a strike, someone is protesting, and he cannot sell, his children will be hungry. So, how that became so important that I was seeing him, he's a poor guy. At the same time, I felt he's so rich. And how that whole thing happens, because you take things sometimes for granted. Everything is coming to your life, you say, oh yeah, that I deserve. You don't even think about it. So one day, when I came here to the United States and seeing the credit cards, at that time credit cards were like you have to pay annual fee, $10 is kind of a privilege. And I was like, oh, I need that card. I need to buy things with my credit card. Finally, one day, my application got approved. I got the plastic card and I was like, wow. And now I can swipe, now I can buy anything. But I knew that I have to pay, just so you know, yeah, I was not getting carried away. But so one day I was in the grocery store. A grocery store I go every day. Every time buy, they know me. Hey, how are you doing? And then I bought the groceries, went to the counter, and how does that work? You guys know? Have you been with your mom buying and she swiped the card? Yeah. And you get the groceries? Okay, that's what I was trying to do. I swiped the card and oops, it didn't work. There is a problem. I said, try it again. And I tried again. It still didn't work. And all of a sudden things changed. The cash register, the gal, she was trained to start looking away from you. She has been trained to say, don't recognize you. All of a sudden, you are nobody. And he's like, you know what? You can come later on. I can put it aside, but with no eye contact. Because she doesn't want to recognize you. She doesn't want to have that kind of a pain of not giving the grocery to you. So, if I take this cookie away from you, you will be happy? No. Really? That's what happened. My child inside was crying. My grocery is going away. Luckily, I had one more card. Swiped. And things were okay. And she was happy. And I was happy. But at the same time, I was sad. I was thinking about this guy. I was thinking about this vendor. He used to be in the neighborhood. He didn't know anything about my home. I used to just get groceries or fruits from him. He used to have, in the mango season, he used to have 150 varieties of mangoes at different times. That's what Pakistan is famous about. But when I go there, and I bought the fruits, and then he said, oh, by the way, I have mangoes. These are the real good ones. And I said, you know what? I don't have cash right now. He said, did I ask for money? No. Yeah, so he opened the trunk and he put the box. And he said, money will come. Who cares? I know you. And that's what makes it so important. Although I got the groceries, but I was sad. Although I got the groceries, I was thinking like, I am so much, kind of my credibility, my integrity is a swipe of a plastic card. What happened to my human's connection? Where he did not have anything. He knew if the money doesn't come, what will happen to his kids? But he was generous. He was rich. And because I was credible, I maintained that as a human connection, that he knows that this person is not going to run away. So that human connection is so important. And that told me a story like how a person can be poor but so rich. And how sometimes you have to surrender your credibility to a piece of plastic just because there is no human connection. And that goes in the society. because we are losing that human connection. So that is so important, and this I wanted to share with you guys.
Thank you, Felicia, Mark, Bobber, Connie, and Maren. Maren and I are Norwegian Americans, Minnesota style. This time of year, we Norskies like to talk a lot about baking krumkake, bundt cakes, lefse, and gingerbread cookies. At Norway House, our cultural center on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, you'll find Gingerbread Wonderland through January 9th. I suspect there never will be a lutefisk wonderland. You don't know about lutefisk? Well, I'll tell you. It's dried codfish soaked in lye. Lutefisk is commonly eaten by Norwegian Americans this time of year. But please, don't ask us about it. Thank you.
Democratic Visions is handcrafted by volunteers from Eden Prairie, Hopkins, Minnetonka, Edina, and Bloomington. Watch us on select cable systems and on our YouTube channel. This is Carol Sundstrom.